My name is Jack, a 32-year-old man raised in a single-parent household. My parents divorced when I was in elementary school, and the reason was my father's infidelity. My father was always frequenting adult entertainment establishments, and no matter how angry my mother got, he wouldn't stop. Eventually, he had a child with one of the women from those places, and my mother was furious. I'm sure she was heartbroken, but it seemed like her anger outweighed her sadness. She said that she was done with this worthless man, and took my hand to leave our home. But we had nowhere to turn to. My maternal grandparents, my mother's parents, had passed away young due to illness. So, my mother couldn't rely on her parents. That's why my mother and I started living together in a small apartment. Since my mother didn't have much education, she couldn't land a well-paying specialized job. Therefore, she juggled 2 part-time jobs to make ends meet. I knew my mother was struggling, but I lashed out at her once because I was hurt by the teasing from my classmates. A classmate, Mike, who had been with me since elementary school, always looked down on me as the poor kid. Well, the poor kid came to school today. Everyone run. Poverty is contagious. If we don't run, we'll all become poor too. Why do you say things like that? It's as if you're treating me like a germ. Shut up. You're a poor person, so just live miserably. You should be ridiculed and cry about it. What did you say, you jerk? Oh, getting violent, are we? That's why I hate people with bad upbringing. Because poor people have rough hearts. It's normal for them to lash out at someone, right? Mike was a really infuriating guy. I wanted to get away from people like him as soon as possible, but we ended up at the same middle school. I thought that if he had money, he would go to a private middle school, but it seemed like Mike had failed to get into one. So, I guess that was why he was in public school. There was no one poorer than me in middle school, so Mike and his gang targeted me again. I was laughed at for my plain-looking lunch and for wearing ragged clothes. So, I blamed my mother. I said it was her fault we were poor, but I regretted it as soon as I said it. My mother looked deeply hurt and kept saying that she is sorry to me. Indeed, my father was a jerk, but he was a good earner. He probably vented his job frustrations in those adult places. I sometimes resented my mother for our destitute life after leaving my father. But then I realized my mother wasn't eating much. She prepared plenty of food for me, but she barely ate any herself. I wondered why, but as I grew up, I understood she was doing it for my sake. That's why I regretted saying such harsh things to her. My mother, worn out by years of hard work, including night shifts, eventually became bedridden. By the time I was in high school, she could barely get up, so I took on most of the household chores. Every time she apologized, it felt like a tightening pain in my chest. I realized I had been too dependent on her. After graduating from high school, I started working. One day, on my way home from work, I bumped into Mike, who had become a college student. He ridiculed me for not going to college and working instead. Well, so you didn't go to college and are working now. Guess the best you can do is be a low-wage laborer. It suits someone raised in a single-parent household like you. People like me, from wealthy families, go to college and even get fancy cars. Oh, is that so? Well, I'm satisfied with my life, so it doesn't matter what you think. Oh, what are you bragging about? Just a casual employee trying to act tough. In this world, college graduates rule. Low-life high school grads like you should just trudge through the mud. The gap between us will only widen. One day, I'll work for a multinational corporation just like my dad and make a ton of money. That's a pretty irrelevant story to me. You're just jealous, admit it. Just watch and see. Mike's father worked for a multinational company and made a lot of money. And Mike himself aspired to be like that. I couldn't care less about Mike's future, and frankly, I had no interest in it. It had nothing to do with me, and I thought he should just do whatever he wants. Time passed like that. Every day, I just went to work and did household chores for my mom, and that was all I could manage. Even when I was exhausted, I felt relieved just seeing my mom eat the food I cooked. Although she had gotten somewhat better, it seemed she couldn't exert herself anymore. I was working now, so we could get by without my mom having to work anymore. Above all, I didn't want her to strain herself any further, so I told her not to work. Then my mother said that she was sorry for making you suffer, and she cried. I was the one who felt bad. For my sake, during my growing years, she must have sacrificed even her own food and stylish clothes. Despite having many things she wanted to do, she sacrificed everything for me. Knowing all this, I no longer blamed my mother for our poverty. I regretted the disrespectful things I had said in the past. Maybe I didn't understand it because I was just a kid, but still, there are things that should and shouldn't be said. And now, I've just turned 32. I've had my struggles, but I feel blessed just to be able to celebrate my birthday. To live healthily every day, to wake up the next day, and then to have a birthday. It seems so ordinary, but it's actually a miracle. Because of the hardships, I was just focused on getting through each day. I had no idea what tomorrow would bring. Back in elementary school, I was always part of the scramble for seconds during lunch. I was that hungry, and I suffered from hunger. Of course, when I got home, I would devour my food. The ingredient-less pasta my mom made was my favorite. I hardly ever ate meat, so my growth must have been quite stunted. Now, I'm of decent height and weight, but as a child, I was quite skinny. One day, after finishing work, I returned home. At home, my mother, who had recovered a bit, greeted me. Recently, she had recovered enough to cook, and she was making things I liked. I told her she didn't have to try so hard, but it seemed to be a diversion for her. So, I let her do as she pleased. While my mother was cooking, I was cleaning my room while looking at my phone. Then, I got a phone call. It was from Mike. He had been persistent about getting my phone number, so I gave it to him once, but I braced myself, wondering what it was about. Hey, Jack, how are you? I've got something to talk about. Is now a good time? What do you want? Well, you see, I'm organizing a mixer soon. There will be flight attendants from Arabian Airlines. They're all cute and stylish. Since you're just a casual employee, you must be free, right? I saw you at the station the other day, looking totally idle, so I'm inviting you. Well, you'll just be the wingman, though. Play your part well. There will be 4 guys including us and 4 girls. But being the bottom feeder that you are, you probably won't get much attention. Haha. I see. So, when is it? It's kind of sudden, but next Saturday. You seem to have a lot of free time, so you can come, right? Well, I'm free on Saturday, so I can make it. Great, it starts at 6 p.m. Meet us at Restaurant AM. All right, got it. Mike was very condescending and belittled me, even blatantly calling me a wingman. I thought he was incredibly rude, but he's always been that kind of person. Expecting manners from Mike was probably too much to ask. I found it annoying, but I decided to go, thinking it might turn into an interesting situation. When the designated Saturday arrived, I got ready around 4 p.m., changing my clothes and preparing to leave the house. By the time I finished, it was already 5 p.m., so I took my time getting to Restaurant AM, where I'd arrive at a good time. I took the train, and when I walked from the station to the restaurant, it was 5:45 p.m. I was a bit early, but decided to wait in front of the restaurant. At 5:50 p.m., Mike and the other guys arrived. They were dressed in what seemed like expensive, high-end fashion. I wondered if they were wearing brand-name clothes. Wow, what's with that outfit? So lame. Excuse me, you can't afford anything better. Coming to a mixer in such a tacky outfit. Are you okay in the head? You'll surely be avoided by the girls. Well, They'll probably be fighting over me, though. The other guys laughed raucously, making me think they were just like Mike. Mike had the most vulgar laugh among them. I didn't think my outfit looked that poor, and I wondered why they had to belittle me so much. I wasn't bothering anyone, nor was I making anyone uncomfortable. Anyway, I followed Mike and the others into the restaurant. After 6 p.m., the girls arrived. They were flight attendants from Arabian Airlines, all tall and slender. It's like models. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's fine, it's fine. Come on, sit here. So, you're Emily, Jennifer, Catherine, and Lily, right? Yes. Wow, you all are so cute. You all work for Arabian Airlines, right? Yes, we're all colleagues. So, you're all the same age, then. We ordered drinks. While waiting, we started introductions, with the girls going first. I'm Emily, working for Arabian Airlines. I'm 25 years old. I'm Jennifer. I was born in March, so I'm still 24, but we're all colleagues. Wow, you're all so young. Max, Johnson, myself, and Jack here are all 32-year-old old men. Sorry for being old guys. Okay. Mike seemed particularly old-fashioned and creepy. I was sure the flight attendants must have been thinking it was gross. Their faces seemed strained. The other guys also said weird things, confusing the flight attendants. I wondered what they would do if they were accused of harassment. Even if they didn't intend to, the girls must have found their comments unpleasant. Then it was the guys' turn for introductions, and Mike gave a confident and lengthy self-introduction. I'm Mike, 32 years old and working in a trading company. I actually wanted to work for a multinational company, but a trading company isn't bad either. At this age, I'm already earning an annual salary of $80,000, so I can buy anything I want. Look, my watch today is Bulgari, and my shoes are Armani, and my hat is Gucci. Nice, right? Do you girls have any favorite brands? I'll buy them for you sometime. Ask for anything. Just kidding. Internally, I was thinking, so gross. Mike, despite being only 32, sounded like a creepy old man in his 50s, with his relentless fawning. He was decked out in a mix of brands, which honestly made my eyes hurt. At least some coordination would have been better, but with a different brand for each item like his hat and shoes, it just looked odd. I wasn't sure if it was my lack of fashion sense or Mike's, but I definitely thought it was weird. Then, Mike pointed at me and burst out laughing. This is my classmate, Jack. Unlike me, he's at the bottom of the barrel. Grew up in a single-parent household, poor, and only finished high school. Hilarious, right? Hey, and he's a casual employee at his age. I see him at the station sometimes, looking so idle and envious. Oh, how nice it must be to have so much free time. Then, the flight attendants swarmed around me, saying things like, "Come on, Mike, what are you talking about? There's no way this man is a casual employee. Excuse me, why don't you say anything, Mr. Iran? When is your next first-class trip to Dubai?" Next week. Oh, is that so? I'm looking forward to seeing you on board again. Thank you for always flying with us. Mike seemed utterly clueless about what was happening. The other guys were also taken aback, staring at me. I was suddenly surrounded by the 4 flight attendants, creating an unexpected harem scene. Mike worked in a trading company, and the other guys were from megabanks and such. They couldn't fathom why someone like me, whom they thought was at the bottom, was being fawned over by attendants from the prestigious Arabian Airlines. But in reality, I'm far from being at the bottom. It's Mike and the other guys who think that. I'm actually the chairman of a certain company. You guys thought I was a casual worker, but I'm more like semi-retired. Actually, I'm the chairman of a company. What? Seriously? You know Global Food Corporation, that's my company. That one that's been doing incredibly well recently. The one started by a young entrepreneur that surpassed major food manufacturers in just 3 years. Yep, that's the one. I worked in a food processing factory after high school and used that experience to start my own food company. We may not be as well known as the major players, but our sales exceed theirs. How much do you make, then? My executive compensation is about $10 million. I used to make a bit more as the CEO, but I'm not that strapped for cash. The company's profits are more important, and it's not good for executives to be overpaid. 10 million. Mike nearly fell off his chair with his overreaction. The other guy's eyes were wide open. Seeing that I was not a bottom dweller but a successful individual, their faces turned red, perhaps out of frustration. I didn't intend to boast about my income, but since they mocked me, I felt the need to respond. Mike always saw me at the station and assumed I was a casual employee, but in reality, I had handed over most of the company's management to President Smith and became the chairman. I'm not sure about other companies, but becoming chairman freed up my time effectively. And it also allowed me to take care of my mother, who had been sickly. She's healthier now, but when I was heavily involved in work, I had to leave her care to housekeepers. But since she raised me, I wanted to take care of her myself, so I switched to working remotely and occasionally visited the office. But how could you start a company? Even if you worked at a food processing factory, you couldn't have had the expertise. That story about being the chairman must be a lie, right? It has to be. No, it's not a lie. Why would I tell such a pointless lie? I'm the founder and current chairman of Global Food Corporation. When I said I wanted to start a company, people who cared about me at the factory, like President Brown, invested in my idea. Really, I was well liked at the factory because I worked hard, so when I shared my dream of owning a company, President Brown and some clients invested. That's how I got to where I am today. So, it's actually you. Yeah, I don't appear in the media, so nobody really knows my face. Being shy, I had always declined media interviews. Also, my face isn't on the company's website. So, no one knew I was associated with Global Food Corporation. But it was different with these flight attendants. My company exports products to Arab countries, and occasionally I travel to Dubai for work. That's why I frequently fly with Arabian Airlines. The comfort on their flights is top-notch, and I always enjoy my journeys in the sky. Since I'm practically regular, the flight attendants recognize me. But there's another reason why they know I'm the chairman of Global Food Corporation. Once, Emily accidentally spilled wine on me, but I didn't get angry. Oh no, I'm so sorry, sir. I apologize profoundly. It's okay. Was it turbulence? But my shirt is wet now. I'll compensate for it. No need, really. But it should be fine with cleaning. How should we do for you, then? Just send a cleaning bill to my company. Here, this is my company. If you mention Chairman Jackaron, they'll understand. Chairman, I'm so sorry. The shirt was quite expensive, but I didn't want to make Emily feel bad, so I refused compensation. It cleaned up nicely, and I was happy to have the cleaning cost reimbursed later. Anyone can make mistakes, and I don't blame others for them. There might be passengers who'd yell in such a situation. But the attendants are human, too, and mistakes can happen on a turbulent flight. Since then, they remembered me as Chairman Iran, and I started getting remarks like, "Have a good trip, Mr. Iran." Since then, we've thought of Chairman Iran as very kind gentleman. But why did you stay silent about being the chairman? Aren't you upset about being ridiculed by Mike and the others? Yeah, you're such an important person, and it doesn't bother you being talked about like that. Well, let those who want to talk. They thought they were calling a wingman, but it turns out they were the wingmen themselves. Haha, that's right. What the heck, man? Getting all high and mighty. So you were looking down on us all along. You guys started by looking down on me, right? I don't get why you're mad. Are you just upset? Enough. Let's get out of here, guys. Fuming, Mike and the other guys left the restaurant. They must have been upset about losing the spotlight they thought they'd have. I didn't come here to be the center of attention, but being surrounded by the girls must have irked them. After that, we finished our meal and left the restaurant. Now I may be a chairman with a substantial salary, but my life has been full of struggles. At the food processing factory I joined after high school, a mean senior, Brian, always harassed me. Once he learned I was from a single-parent home, he scorned me, accusing me of likely stealing products. One day, there was a discrepancy in the product count. While processing, we ran short of fish fillets. Then Brian accused me. I must have stolen a fish, there's no doubt about it. Despite it being impossible to stuff fish fillets in pockets or bags, Brian rummaged through my work clothes and bag to check for the missing fillets. Eventually, it turned out someone else had accidentally thrown a fish into the trash, but Brian never apologized to me. I sometimes wanted to quit because of people like him, but the experienced part-time ladies and President Brown were very kind. Knowing I was struggling with poverty, they occasionally brought me home-cooked side dishes or shared products with me. I had never been treated so kindly before, so I was moved to tears. It also made me realize that eating is essential for living. The dishes the ladies cooked and the products President Brown gave me were all delicious. Eating them at the dinner table with my mom, saying how tasty everything was, I realized that food can change people. I wanted to create more delicious food to make people across the USA smile. And eventually, I hoped to bring joy to people around the world, which led me to start a food company. When I shared this idea with President Brown at the factory where I worked, he said it was a great idea. He even offered to support me with funding if I was truly committed. Furthermore, clients I had connections with also helped me out, and I managed to establish the company. Initially, our products didn't sell at all, but when we developed easy-to-prepare items, they became a hit among working mothers and parents raising children. Considering the growing number of working women who need quick meal solutions, this was a timely success. As my mother gradually regained her health, she also gave me advice. Her opinions, being a cooking enthusiast, were invaluable, and our ready-to-use series turned out to be a huge hit. In countries with larger families, the need for cooking in bulk is significant. In the USA, having 3 kids is considered a lot, and 4 is like, wow, those parents are amazing. But globally, there are many families with even more children, and they are often in poor conditions. So, they can't always afford to feed their entire family delicious meals. I launched an international version of the ready-to-use series with affordable and tasty products made from local ingredients, suitable for cooking in large quantities. Surprisingly, it was a hit overseas too. Even ingredients that were previously discarded were turned into delicious meals, increasing our shipments. Since then, I've been developing various unique products. I've created snacks rich in protein and calcium, and guilt-free foods for late-night cravings, targeting dieters. These products became popular among office ladies and were even featured in women's magazines. I want everyone to eat deliciously and stay healthy. Having been starved for food as a child, I think I have a strong attachment to food. Now, I'm passionate about creating delicious foods. I plan to keep developing new products in the future. For instance, environmentally friendly products and those focusing not just on health but also on beauty. Also, I want to contribute to society through my food company. Supporting developing countries with food issues and developing products using local agricultural produce are just some of the ways. Through these initiatives, I aim to bring smiles and health to people worldwide. And ultimately, I want to lead a fulfilling life myself. I truly believe that managing a food company allows me to enrich my life while contributing to society. Thanks for your hard work. Here's dinner for today. Wow, it looks delicious. Your favorite, cheese-less mac and cheese. Brings back memories. The mac and cheese my mother served me had no cheese in it. It was her unique recipe, sparing even the cost of cheese. It had onions, which were always in our fridge. My mother always said onions were good for health, so she made sure to buy them regularly. My mother felt that even buying cheese was too extravagant, so she hadn't bought it since the divorce. Instead, she put onions in her version of mac and cheese. The seasoning was only thick cream sauce. It made me realize that food isn't just about following recipes, it can be flexible. For instance, fried chicken doesn't always have to be made with chicken. It could be inexpensive pork or anything available at home. I started thinking that housewives and house husbands who cook could break away from traditional concepts. That's why I started developing products that could be easily prepared with ingredients already at home. In a way, my mother played a huge role in creating my hit products. She always said she hadn't done anything, but I owe it to her for getting this far. One day, I flew with Arabian Airlines again. I was returning to the USA from a business trip. Someone winked at me on the flight. It was Emily, the flight attendant. She seemed interested in me, stealing glances my way. I, too, had been interested in Emily and hoped to get closer to her. Later, at the airport, she approached me, pulling her trolley, and invited me to dinner. Having never been asked out by a woman before, I wondered if I was dreaming. But Emily's eyes were earnest. "I'm so glad you came. I've always wanted to get closer to you," she said. "Really? That's nice to hear," I replied. "Thank you for being so kind when I made that mistake. I've liked you ever since that incident," she confessed. "Like, as in love? Yes, I've fallen for you. Please, would you go out with me?" "What, really? Am I not good enough because I'm just a flight attendant?" "No, it's not that at all. It's just, are you sure you want to be with someone like me? It's because it's you. Please, let's date seriously." I was astonished by her confession. Sure, I hadn't gotten angry when Emily spilled wine on my shirt. Mistakes happen, and getting angry doesn't help. But she saw me as kind. I never thought of myself as particularly kind, nor did I consider myself mean. People who are cruel often lack self-confidence. Like Mike. I heard from other flight attendants that Mike was still hosting mixers. But his arrogant attitude meant he wasn't popular with the ladies. No matter how well off or employed at a trading company, no one wants to be with someone with such a personality. My relationship with Emily began, and I eventually introduced her to my mother. Mom adored her, treating her like a daughter. Since dating Emily, my life changed significantly. Having a girlfriend brought a sense of security, positively affecting my work and daily life. Every day felt purposeful, filled with motivation. Being with her naturally brought more smiles and a sense of peace. Our dates were rare due to our busy schedules, but they were always enjoyable, and time flew by. Every outing was so fun that parting was always regrettable. Emily, being a busy flight attendant, meant that I had to adjust my work and personal time to make room for moments with her. Even though becoming a chairman allowed me more freedom than before, I was still very busy. One day, when I proposed to Emily, she expressed her desire to become a full-time homemaker to support me. Leaving Arabian Airlines, a job she had worked hard to get, must have been a huge decision. But I was thrilled that she wanted to be a full-time homemaker to be with me. As my mother's health had fully recovered, Emily and I decided to live together in a high-rise apartment near my family home. In reality, our family home wasn't the shabby apartment many thought it was, but a luxury apartment. However, I assumed my classmates still believed I lived in the old, rundown place. A year after we started living together, Emily and I got married. We had our wedding in Hawaii. My mother was overjoyed, crying tears of happiness, and Emily's parents were also very happy. She was their beloved daughter, and I was determined to cherish her forever. After our marriage, Emily and I led a life that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. She became a wonderful wife, dedicating herself to managing our home. Though I was often engrossed in my work, Emily's constant support enabled me to keep pushing forward. Eventually, we were blessed with a child. When our son was born, I was so moved that I cried tears of joy. Despite being new to parenting, Emily devoted herself entirely to raising our child. I feel incredibly fortunate to be married to Emily. We occasionally visit my mother with our son, and she always greets us with a gentle smile. All the hard work over the years felt truly rewarded.